Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm Jay with Bonsais Forever. Today I've got a really cool tree here. So I got this tree from a nursery a couple hours away from my house. I was driving back from Colorado, stopped at a nursery because I was tired. So was looking through their nursery stock and I found this tree and brought it home, did some work on it, bent it with some wires. I used guide wires as well as wiring branches, and I got it to look like this shape. I did some deadwood work over here. Honestly, I don't remember this branch being straight up like this. I don't remember that. It's been a while since I worked on this tree though, so it very well could have been like that. But anyway, I just wanted to show you guys what the second step of creating a bonsai from a nursery tree after a year of just letting it grow. I've been watering it and watching it, make sure that it's not losing foliage and stuff like that. But it's well, actually, this would be the third step. Sorry, I missed the second step. I took all the wire off of it. So it's got one piece of wire on this branch, which I think I might leave that on there. It doesn't look like it's digging in yet, so I kind of want to wait until it first starts to show signs of digging into the bark. This tree does have a lot of undergrowth in here, which is really cool because some of these are I'm looking at them, I'm not drawing a blank. Some of them are sweet gum and some of them look to be trident maple. So the trident maples, that'd be really awesome. I'll definitely keep those. The sweet gums I won't keep those because I've bonsaied them before and they do really great for a while and then they just die. So I'll try that again some other time later down the road. But anyway, what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna put this into a bonsai pot. It's gonna be a training pot, but this pot, as you can see, is breaking apart and it's about done. So next time I think I'm going to use a wood box when I do something like this, because I don't like creating plastic trash. I really don't like doing that. I think plastic is one of the world's greatest and most terrible inventions ever. I'm not going to get political and environmental on you guys. Just be responsible. That's all I can say, or all I want to say. So I'm gonna go through and repot this. I'm trying to think if I want to repot it first or if I want to go through it first. I'm gonna go through it first because I've talked about this before, and I'm gonna go through and work on the tree before I repot it, because when you repot it, then it's kind of loose in the pot. So I'm gonna try and bring you guys in a little bit closer here, trying something new. One of my subscribers said in my last video was one of my last videos, it was kind of hard to see the tree with all the other trees behind it. So I'm gonna try this on this larger tree, and I'm still waiting on it, but I have ordered a shed, so that's going to be my new workshop, and I'm going to be able to work on trees in there. And I'll have a backdrop and all that stuff. I'll probably paint part of the wall so that we can so I can work on trees and y'all can see the trees rather than everything else behind it, which I love everything else behind it, but not while I'm working on a tree. I'd really like you guys to be able to see what is going on. And I thought I had myself all set up, but I did not. So here we go. All right, so honestly, I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and gently pull out all these trees. I have a container with some water in it that I'm going to put all these into. I am going to, like I said, I am going to save the trident maples. And these have actually been growing for quite some time, so they've got a good amount of roots on them, which is awesome. I've got a couple, I think I've got a couple of trident maples that I'm starting, but they're all about this same size, so nothing extravagant yet. Oh, that one's nice. That's got some good roots. So seedlings and little bitty saplings, that's a good way to get started with bonsai trees. If you can go around your yard and find tiny little seedlings or saplings like this, and be able to dig them out without damaging the roots and stuff. Here in Florida, these things are just going to survive because the humidity, the heat, the fact that I have a greenhouse, all that stuff is working in my favor. If you're someplace that, you know, just pulling, sorry guys, just smack you around there. If you're in some place that isn't ideal for just pulling a tree out of the ground and putting it into some dirt and growing it, then, you know, figure out what's best for where you're at. But here where I'm at, I can just pull these out of the ground here. And this is relatively loose soil as well, so that actually helps a lot. And one of my other videos, the red cedar video, I was talking about just pulling the trees out of the ground. We have sand here, so I can just go out and pull a tree out of the ground, and it's got most of its roots. Now if you're in some place that's got rocky soil and clay and stuff like that, you're gonna have to dig it out. Even if it's a smaller tree, use a small shovel and just pop it out of the ground. Anyway, back to this tree. We're gonna go from the bottom up like I usually do, and the first thing I'm gonna do on this tree is I think I'm gonna go along the bottoms of all the branches, and I'm gonna take off stuff like this stuff here. It's hanging down, it's on the very bottom of the branch. This is where this branch is gonna be this is where this branch is going to be long term. I don't know permanently, but long term it's going to be like this. So I'm going to take the lower stuff off the bottom of the branch. And then the other thing I'm going to be looking at is new growth and new foliage, where it's at, how it's growing. If it's got strong growth, that's kind of what I'm looking at. The tip growth is where the new growth is at. So I'm going to be looking at that to see how much new growth this has. It's been in a relatively shaded area. It's just where I had it, not that it needed it, just that's where I had it. So everything looks like it's pretty dark. It's got a couple of lighter tips on it, which shows new growth still, but being that it's been in a very shaded area, that will definitely slow down the growth on a juniper. So I don't have a ton of growth, and I don't know what the roots look like in this. This has been in this pot for I think just over a year now, so these roots could be very well established in this pot. Typically you want to have a tree in a pot for about 2 years, but this was a nursery tree. This was its first bonsai soil that I've put it in, and I just let it grow uncontrolled this whole time. So these roots might be really well established, and it is definitely ready to be repot because I'm sick of looking at this tub and it's breaking apart. Anyway, so to be looking at the main structure of these branches and where I want all the foliage to end up being. And I really think that I want this to have kind of a up in the mountains kind of look, where it's been, you know, blown through by strong winds and sandstorms and stuff like that, or dust storms and snowstorms and that kind of stuff. So the lower branches down here that are the younger branches, I think this stuff I'm going to remove and just make it look like they've been either chewed on by a rabbit or something like this, because I'm gonna imagine that this tree is about this size, this actual size, and not make it look like it's a giant tree. So I didn't actually give you guys a spin around of this, so here's a spin around of the tree, what it kind of looks like. So here we go. I'm gonna start chopping off some of the younger foliage. I don't know if I'm going to save a whole lot of this. I might. Some of the really small branches, like this size branch, that I'm going to remove clear down to the trunk, because something like this size, if it's been chewed on, they're going to chew it all the way down to the end, or they're going to chew it off right here and then sit there on the ground and eat it. So that's why I'm going to do the really small branches like that. The larger of the small branches I'm going to break off. Actually, this branch that's got the wire on it, it's going to go to. So I've changed my mind and changed my strategy on this tree, and that's really the joy of bonsai, being able to change your mind and change ideas and decide to do something else in the middle of what you're doing. Once you get it farther down the road, it's more, I was gonna say more better. Wow, that's awesome. It is better to continue with the idea that you had at this stage, but I'm still in the beginning of creating this tree, so right now would be the time to change my mind on what I want to do with it. And I really think that doing the short or the smaller tree size idea, I really like that idea, so I'm gonna go with that. So I'm gonna trim everything back to the foliage that is in a pad already, because like I said, a rabbit or even like mice and rats or whatever, they'll come by and they'll chew on this lower foliage, and they'll like completely take it off and just leave the larger pads, because they'll chew on the ends of it and stuff like that, but they're more likely to leave the larger branches, because it's more to get through this than it is to get through the smaller stuff. I don't know what kind of small critters you guys have where you're at that eat your trees and stuff, but this last what was it? Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. It's Sunday now, but Saturday I had come out here to bring the stuff back into the greenhouse from the market that I go to, and there was a rat in my greenhouse, and I didn't see anything that it had damaged until last night, Sunday night. And I had a mango seedling. I mean, it just barely started seedling, and this rat had chewed the trunk through. So there goes that seed. So one thing that, if you guys have your trees outside or in greenhouses and stuff like that, that's something to definitely keep an eye on. I've heard of other channels. I think it was Nigel Saunders on the Bonsai Zone. He had rabbits in his yard, and he had some trees that he was growing out in the ground, and the rabbits would come by and chew the trunks off of his tree. But they would they would be really mean about it too, because they would chew like around the bottom of a branch or the main trunk, and they chewed all the way around it. So now you've got a dead tree, and the rest of the tree looked just fine. But yeah, animals don't think about what they're doing. They just, you know, they find food and they're just going to eat it. So now I don't want to take off all of the foliage on this upper stuff, I don't think. It's called a Parsons juniper, and that's the common name. Some of these branches are going to look really sparse right after I trim this back, because I let it grow a little bit longer than I should have, a longer time than I should have. So I've got branches that look, well, you can't see that because it's right in front of the tree. So they look like this, and there's no foliage down here until below this. There was some foliage, so I have to cut those off so that we can use this foliage down here instead of having this super long branch with a proof ball at the end of it, kind of like this one. You've got foliage back here and then a long stretch here, so I'm taking all that stuff off at this point, and then as it grows back in, that'll get more dense. We just keep pinching the ends of these, and these will get a lot tighter as well. I do want to take out a lot of the less vigorous growth in here, but I do want to leave a lot of the growth on the ends of some of these branches, because I want to form like pads, but eventually I'm going to wire these out to where it makes more of a pad, and then I'll trim these back as well. So I'm going to trim them back now, because letting these grow out, they start getting longer and longer branches, and then the interior of the branch loses all of its foliage, and then you've got a poof ball on the end of the branch, and that's what happened to my other juniper. And I don't want to go through all the work to get this one back to looking like it has pads. So I'm going to, from here on out, I'm going to maintain this a lot tighter foliage, because this last year I was just letting it grow to recover from putting it into a pot and recovering from wiring it like very drastically. This tree was not at this angle. It was more at this angle in the pot, and all these branches were just all over the place. So I tightened it in and made it look more like a tree, and then I planted it at this crazy angle so that it would look more like a natural tree. Really like this type of juniper. Well, maybe that'll help. Turn on some lights. It's kind of a interesting day because it's kind of dark outside, but there's no clouds. Weird. Welcome to Florida. Okay, so I'm back. I know you didn't know I left, but I had to go find out what the dog was getting into. He likes chasing rats and squirrels and stuff like that, and he's chasing a lizard, and behind the boards that he was trying to find this lizard in, there was a pile of carpenter ants, and those guys are pretty nasty fellas. So, and there's a pile of roaches back there too, so I had to get rid of that. Now I'm trying to figure out where I was at. I think I was over here. Okay, so I'm trying to reduce the length of these branches, aren't I? All right, so let's get back to doing that. So I'm basically, what I'm doing is I'm coming in here. I'm gonna get you in as close as I can so that you can see this right here. Okay, so you see this branch is the secondary branch, or yeah, because this is a primary branch, secondary branch. This is a little tertiary branch right here coming off of here, and I want the tertiary branch, but as you can see, there's foliage back here, and then this kind of a long stretch of little tiny branches, and then a bunch of really thick growth right here. This is what I want all of this to look like down here, but it's not going to do that if this is here, so I have to take this off completely like that to get the rest of this back here to start thickening up, or getting more compact. So as the same, I'm going to pinch these back, all the really long shoots. The other thing I could do is I could come back to this one branch here, or a couple of branches back here, and take the whole end of this branch off, which I think I might do in this case, because then that makes this section a lot more compact and more like a pad. So I'm going to keep going through and then pinching back. And basically when you pinch, you just grab the foliage and you kind of roll your fingers and it just pops it right off. And by doing this, it actually does help to keep the ends of these branches from turning brown. Right here, there's a bend in the branch, and this piece is right in the middle of the bend, and that doesn't typically happen in nature. Eventually that would have fallen off on its own, but because we're taking care of the trees, I'm going to take it off now. And then I think I'm going to leave, not going to leave this stuff here. Take all this stuff off right here as well. I am going to leave this stuff back here for now. See how that develops. Move you back out a little bit. There we go. So I've got this. This area is pretty well taken care of now. It looks pretty decent. I'm going to pinch the tips of all of these as well, because I don't want it to continue to get longer. I want it to backbud. So by taking off all the tips of the freshly growing branches out here, that'll get this to backbud a little bit better. And then the actual secondary branches as well, they'll backbud as well. So it'll make this into a pad. All right, so this branch I'm going to wire out here. So I've trimmed the tips back to make it the right length that way. And I'm going to take these branches off of the going to be bottom side of this branch like that. So that's going to go probably right in this section here. Let's see if you guys can see that. It's going to go right in here from up here. Just like that. And now I'm going to go over to this branch here. I'm trying to get the camera more into what I'm doing so that y'all aren't just sitting there, you know, watching me work on a tree and not knowing what I'm doing on said tree. I'm taking off the interior, or the in the curve growth here. I'm gonna cut these all back. This one I might kind of leave a little bit bigger here. Might make this branch go like this. bring this down over here so that this whole section over here can be a pad. So this piece is going to be out of, I'm actually going to keep a couple of these cuttings. And this short growth right here, I'm going to leave the short growth, cut this back. Cut it back to here. And then I'm going to have to let these guys grow out just a little bit, and then we'll cut those back once this back here starts growing in better. By taking off some of the foliage on these branches, it's actually going to cause the tree to grow. And this is late summer, I think. September. I think it's late summer. Honestly, I've never been really into all the seasons and, oh, it's fall and the leaves are turning and then it's gonna snow and yeah, I've never really been into that for some reason. I don't know why, but I just want it to always be summer. Because that's my happy time of year. It's when all the trees are growing the best, and I've got monitor lizards, and during the summertime they're doing really well. I don't have to worry about cold weather. I don't have to worry about bringing them inside and stuff like that because they're in an outdoor enclosure. But wintertime, that's my stressful time of year. I have to worry about my trees freezing. Not these ones. These ones stay outside. They're super hardy trees. They grow in very cold climates, so I don't have to worry about my junipers or my conifer trees. But like all my tropical trees, which I've got way more tropical trees than I do conifers, so then I have to worry about all those guys freezing. And that's one of the reasons why I got the shed. I'm going to be putting a lot of my really nice tropical trees in the shed during the wintertime, and I'm going to have heat and insulation in there so I don't have to worry as much about the trees not surviving the wintertime. So most of this tree kind of goes off in this direction. It kind of curves off in this direction. But I don't want it to be like a windswept style of tree. I want it to look like that happened to it, but I don't want it to be like this tree is constantly being blown over. I want it to look like that has happened to it though. So that's why everything is kind of going this way, or now that it is going this way, that's the style I'm going to go for. But I don't want it to look like it's constantly being berated by wind. I just want it to look like it's gone through something. So on this side, I don't want to, I know I'm moving the camera around a lot. I hope this is okay with you guys. If not, let me know in the comments. But this side of the tree, I kind of want it to look like it's at least trying to grow back out this direction and get the sun from this side of the tree. But I also kind of want it to look like the wind direction is going this direction. A lot of areas that I've noticed, like in the mountains, you've got a tree that's growing in like a crevice, or like right on the side of the mountain, or in a valley or something like that. The wind goes typically in one direction. So this tree being all in this kind of direction, that would mean that the direction of the wind is coming from over here and making the tree grow in this direction. But trees don't want to grow all in one direction. They want to grow outwards. So that's why I'm leaving this, to show that this tree is struggling to be its own thing and doing its own thing. It's not just conforming to the wind. Right now, most of what I'm trying to do is to shorten all of these tertiary branches so that they don't look like I said, a poof ball at the end of the branch. Like, see, this is a really good example. You've got a lot of really strong growth out here, and it's long, strong growth too. And then you've got this growth back here, which is healthy, but you've got this whole stretch from here to about here where you've got like very scraggly branches. So I'm going to cut this back to where it's got the healthy growth back here, but shortens it by that much. And that'll bring this into making this a pad, and I can wire this into the tree right here later on. I'm not wiring anything today. I'm going to do that all in the fall with all of my conifers. I'm going to wire them all in the fall if I'm going to wire them. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to bring everything back into a shape. This one I'm gonna leave this one because I kind of like how this goes up and it's meeting up here. So eventually this branch will thicken up and this will be where the pad is going to be, and all of this will be just like this really interesting branch coming up into that section. I am going to take out the lower crotch growth down here. I definitely like how this has got smaller stuff right on this edge. Got some little spiders on the tree. There you go. Where'd you go? Oh, there you are. Man, this whole pot is just like falling apart. Alright, so now I'm going to be working on this section. It goes clear out to here, but it kind of twists around up over to here. So I want there to be foliage in here. I don't want it to be bare and then poof balls at the top here. So I'm going to leave some of this foliage down in here, but the same as what I've been doing, I'm going to shorten the ends of these back again, and then by cleaning this section out, it'll give this more light, and plus I'm going to put it in a sunnier spot after this, so it will get I'll start getting more sun, so some of this down here can start growing as well. Trying to think if I like the height of it or if I want to shorten the height of all of this stuff. I'm gonna shorten these. I'm gonna shorten these back. The only bad thing is I don't have any really strong growth down here because all of this has been overgrowing. So I'm gonna just pluck the tips off, the actual little poof balls off the top. I'm gonna cut all of those back. I'm gonna cut them all the way back to the end of the long nodes. This one doesn't have a really long node, and if I take it all the way back, that completely gets rid of this tertiary branch. So I'm going to cut the end off of it if I can get my scissors in there. Then I'm going to pinch it back really hard. So I've learned with some of the junipers, you really don't want to repot them right before wintertime, I've got time right now. That's kind of why I decided that right now would be a good time to do this for this tree. Typically you want to repot junipers in the spring. Most places. I'm not worried about this dying because I'm going to be paying really close attention to it, making sure that it's getting enough water, and it's going to be put out into a sunnier spot, but I'm not going to put it right directly in a spot where the sun is just going to hammer down on it. It does need to still be protected because it was just repotted, but it'll be good. I'm gonna really take care of it and really pay attention to it. By taking off as much foliage as I'm trying to take off here, that's gonna help it survive the repot as well. Cleaning out all the crotch growth in here, and branches going in inward directions. I don't want to take out all of the interior growth because I kind of want some of these to turn into more branches. I'm going to really shorten this branch out. I don't know if you can see that. It's all the way from here up to here. And then I'm going to chop it off right here. I'm going to take this whole section off. I'll keep that one. Then I'm going to cut this way back too. I might just take that whole piece off as well. There we go. So that opens up a lot right in here. And this has got, it's got enough growth on it that that's going to survive just fine. Alright, you can kind of see where I'm at right here. I couldn't take the tips off of this one because I wanted to keep this one longer to bring it out here. This branch is coming off the, kind of off the side, but kind of off the top. There's a tiny branch in here, I'm taking that off. And I've got these branches in here. Take off the crotch growth inside here. Go. And I kind of wanted to form a pad out here as well. So I think I'm gonna take this piece off because I've got a piece up front here. Just like that. Take that whole poof ball off. And then I've still got this this bit right here that I can take off the top as well. So this branch is kind of coming off this direction, and I kind of want it to come over here, but I've also got this branch coming off into this direction too, so I could probably cut this one way back. The cool thing about trees, they grow, so if I take off something now that I don't want off of there later, I just wait for something else to grow in that area. Something that you should be aware of though, I mean, if you're working on a tree and you're taking off too much foliage, it could set you back a long time to get the tree to grow back to where you wanted it. But like I said, it does grow, so you'll get back there eventually. Alright, so this branch is kind of growing out, and this one is growing up from the top. And I don't want a blank spot in the top here. So I'm just going to cut the top off there like I have been. And then that reduces this whole section right here. I'm going to clean up the ends of these. I'm hoping that you can see what I'm pulling off, because it's got really long, smaller branches out here with the foliage. And the foliage turns into branches. I don't know if you knew that on junipers. The foliage actually turns into the branches. And honestly, if you look at any tree, that's pretty much how any tree grows. The leaves growing out behind where the leaf grew, that's where the branch continues. So anyway, the foliage on a juniper turns into the branches as well. So trimming these back to keep them roughly in the right size there. So now that I've gotten all of this section done, getting somewhere now. It's actually starting to look like a tree. So I've gotten this branch gone through, and then I've got all this over here. I've got a tiny little branch right here coming, like trying to come through, and I think I'm going to completely remove that because it's a long gangly branch. Doesn't have much to it, just like that. So getting rid of that. It was way down here in the interior. I think I'm going to get rid of most of these interior ones. I'm going to leave the new growth right here just because it looks like the tree's struggling to survive, or still surviving from whatever chewed on it. I think sometimes when some of the more experienced bonsai artists talk about taking their trees to the shows and stuff, they always talk about taking off all the crotch growth and like really cleaning it up and stuff like that. And sometimes I wonder if that's not absolutely necessary, because it makes the tree look like it's still growing if you have that stuff on there. Kind of some of them that I've seen in like pictures and stuff, it looks fake almost. It looks like a picture, or it looks like it's fake. I mean, I guess that's the only thing I can think of the word to say on that. It doesn't look natural. That's the other word I was thinking. It doesn't look natural. It looks, well, it looks fake. Anyway, they look beautiful, but I don't know. For me, bonsai is making trees look natural, making them look like they're in the wild, make them look like they're not in a pot. You know, I don't typically do, this is the front of the tree and this is the side of the tree and this is going to be its first branch and its back branch and this branch is growing in your face and stuff like that. I love the fact that this tree is growing in all directions. That just says natural to me. I mean, it looks like it's alive. It looks like it's trying to do its own thing, you know. So I don't know. I'm not a typical bonsai artist. I love a lot of the traditional styles of trees and stuff like that. I do have a couple of trees that are in like a traditional Japanese style with the triangular shape of the trees, but all the trees that I have observed growing up and since I really got into bonsais, I've like really started to notice what trees look like as they grow and as they're maturing and as they're mature trees. And from where I'm from, they don't have a triangular shape to them. I usually see them in a more of a rounded shape to them, or just wild. I mean, not a shape at all. They're just all over the place. And I think typically like deciduous trees do grow in more of a rounded shape, but I honestly don't see like conifer trees growing in a triangular shape, and that's usually the trees that they're trying to make grow into a triangular shape. A lot of the pine trees here in Florida are a long trunk, and then it's got this giant patch of foliage on the top of the trunk. And I know it's only one species of pine tree out here that does that. It's I think it's the longleaf pine that does that. I think that's so cool. I love how those things look. And I'm like showing you guys down in the tree here. There we go. I'm working up here. I don't know. I just really like how that looks. I like the really cool canopies on the long needle pines. And really, I don't know how many different pine species we have here in Florida, but just driving across on the highway, looking at the forest and stuff, it's just so amazing, the different shapes of trees, and trying to make all the trees the same shape in my garden, that bores me. So I want to make all my trees look different and have their own personalities and not conform. I don't like to conform. Alright, that's looking really good. Alright, I think I'm at the end of this branch. I'm going to pinch this back just to get it into shape here. I really like how this camera has a wide angle, because most of this you guys wouldn't have seen if I'd have been using my phone. Paying more attention to the tree, but definitely want you guys to see where I'm at. Some old needles on here. These trees, when they're really young, they grow a needle-like foliage, like pokey needle type foliage, and then as they mature, they get this softer foliage on them. And this is the Parsons juniper. I know I said it in the beginning, but working on the tree, and people are like, "Wait, what kind of tree is that?" It's a Parsons juniper. I'll put the scientific name in the description, because I like doing that, because it definitely helps out. I like it when people do that as well, so I'll do that for y'all. Alright. I kind of think I want to let this branch up here elongate and get up over in this section, maybe. Maybe. I might not. I might wire this. I don't know. I might bring this back down into this section. I think it's grown up a little bit since I wired it, or unwired it. I might pull this back down into here later on. Actually, I might do that when I repot this. I'll attach a guide wire down here to, not even looking, pay attention. So I'm going to attach a guide wire up here, and I'll pull this down to this section of the tree, and yeah, I'll pull this down to here. And as I'm pulling it in, I might pull it back to here so that it kind of does like a bow with this, and like pulls it to itself rather than being straight and then bending in one spot. We'll work on that when I repot it. So I think I'm ready to repot this. I'm not going to go overboard with the pruning on this, which I think I've already not gone overboard yet, but I'm getting close. So I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to grab the bucket to put the soil in. I'll be right back. All right, here we go. So I got a giant bucket because I got a giant pot here, and as you all know, I save my soil. So I'm gonna grab the trunk here. It's not wired in or anything like that. It's just kind of set in the soil. I'm just gonna pull it out of the soil, and that has an immense amount of roots. That is awesome. I'm loving that. That's exactly what I wanted to see. That whole thing, its roots all the way out to the edge. I did leave quite a bit of the compost soil on the tree when I repotted it into the plastic pot here. So so yeah, it's got quite a bit of roots on it. I'm super excited about that. And as I repot this, I'm going to make sure and get all the weeds out of the soil here. It has, actually I might not get rid of all the weeds because I kind of like the clovers. Clovers are actually a really cool ground. Excuse me, I got hiccups. Clovers are a really cool ground cover, so I'm going to attempt to leave those in here. And really awesome. I'm gonna pull you in closer so you guys can see just what I'm doing. You can see the ends of these roots. It's got white tips on the ends of these roots, so that's spectacular. That means they're growing and getting more roots. So it's awesome. This tree's doing so good. Really, really happy with how this tree has actually been turning out so far. So I am going to attempt to get a lot of the bottom. I am going to attempt to get a lot of the bottom soil off of here as the helicopter goes over and makes all kinds of noise. Up the road, we actually have a helicopter shop that works on the crop duster helicopters and stuff like that. So every so often they'll fly over. Alright, I'm going to try to get kind of far into here. When I repotted this originally, I think I did do a video on this when I first potted this up. I'll have to see if I can put a link in the description for that video for you guys. So you guys can see how I did that, because I'm pretty sure that when I repotted this, I opened up a lot of the soil areas so that I could get the bonsai soil in there. Probably test flying that helicopter. I'm going to try and take off some of these roots. I'm going to put it in a relatively large pot, so this should fit actually in this pot almost as it sits. Actually, yeah, it'll fit in this pot just fine. But I am going to trim back some of these big long roots that don't have any or very few feeder roots at the end of them. Get rid of those, because that's not really helping a whole lot. It's got new feeder roots and that was alive, but it's not producing what it should be producing. Like this, it's got a lot of old roots on it. So yeah, I want to take that kind of stuff off when I'm doing a repot on a juniper. I want to not take off so much that it's going to cause it wow, why can't I think right now? I don't want to take off so many roots that it's going to cause it to slow down its growth because it is still summer and I want it to keep growing at this point. But because it's been in the shade for quite a while now, and it's been actually slowing down. I hope that's a word. I don't know if that's a word. It's been not growing super fast recently anyway, so doing this work on it and taking off a few of the roots, it should like start really growing after I do this. That's definitely one thing I like about living in a somewhat subtropical area in the world. It's nice. You can do work here that you wouldn't be able to do in a area that's not like this, because this kind of work in Colorado or like the desert areas of Australia, something like that, I'm sure that this would not be a good time to do this, because, well, actually right now wouldn't be a bad time to do this because it's coming on spring in Australia, so have at it, guys. But but like places that it's going into winter, not such a good idea to do extreme work on your junipers. Especially if you have really extreme winters. That's definitely not a good idea. Alright, so I got some weeds up here. I'm gonna scratch out of the soil here. Alright, I think that's gonna be good. Show you guys, that's my roots. I've got a couple of interesting roots up here. Actually, I'm going to take that one off because it looks like there's not much at the end of it. It's just going to die back anyway. I left a lot of these roots on here when I was repotting it last time, just because I didn't want to take off any roots of the tree. So I'm going to take some of these off now. Kind of clean up around the trunk there. Not too bad. Yay, it looks like I've got tiny little ants in here. That's exciting. Alright, I'm going to take off all the roots that I just cut off. Make sure it doesn't have any of those. Alright. Then I'm going to prepare to move everything out of the way so that I'm not bumping the camera around. Here we go. Okay, so alright, so now I've got the tree all cleaned up here, got the roots cleaned up, and now we are going to put some soil in here. So on this tree, I'm going to use my larger particle bonsai soil on this. I would tell you what's in it, but I have forgotten. So I'm not going to. I know, well, I'll tell you what I know is in there. I know it's got lava rock. I know it's got pumice and turfus. And I think it's got, this is paver base. If you can see that. I'm looking at the tiny end of the camera. So that's a paver base. And then that's crushed granite. So I've got crushed granite, lava rock, pumice, turfus, and I've got some pine bark fines as well in here. Typically I don't use a whole lot of organic potting soil or bonsai soil like the peat and pine bark fines. I don't typically do that just because out here we get so much rain that it overwaters the trees if I use a lot of organic material in the soil. So I typically don't, because of that. Plus, I'm an overwaterer. I don't know if that's actually a word, but I will say it anyway. I overwater way too much because I think that they need water because it's super hot outside, and that's something that I need to overcome and work on. So on this tree, it kind of does have a front and a back and whatever, I guess, because it's going to be in a square pot and the tree is going in a direction. So I'm going to call this the front for now. So I want the tree to sit in the pot to where it looks like it's in a natural stance. Like, I don't want the tree to sit in the pot like this. I don't want it to sit in the pot like this. I want it to sit to where this part of the tree looks like it was trying to go straight up at one point. So I think I'm going to pot it at this angle right here. I'm going to try and keep it at that angle. So I need to add a little bit of soil to the back side here. Yeah, like that. So it looks like it was at one point it was trying to grow straight out. Maybe it fell over, started growing up again, and the wind blew it, you know, so it's got a story to it. And I'm not going to tie this into the pot like normal, but give me just a second. I'm going to grab a couple of pieces of chopstick here. Try and grab some of my thicker chopsticks. Those aren't long enough. Alright, so I've got a pile of sticks here that I use for stuff such as this. Alright, I think this one will work. I think this one will work. Yeah, that should do. And I've shown this strategy before, but I want to trying to find a piece of wire here, so I don't need. Man, I got a whole pile of wire behind me here, so I'm trying to find a piece of wire that I don't have to waste my good wire. That's good pieces. All right, let's get back into positions. Uh-oh, battery's about to die soon, so I better hurry up. Alright, so I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to pot it up, and then I'll give you a spin around. So you take the wire, I wrap it around at least 3 times at the end of the stick. Such, nice and tight. Then I'm going to run the wire under the pot and stick over the pot right where I want to hold the tree down. And then I'm going to put it someplace where the stick is actually going to have some flex to it and hold it against the pot so that the stick is actually holding the tree into the pot. And then I'm going to wrap it at least 3 times on the other side, and then that's going to hold the tree in the pot. And then on the bottom side you can actually twist the wire a little bit to give it a little bit more tension. That's why I got a thicker piece of wire. So I'll be back in just a minute. I don't want my camera to run out of battery. Alright everybody, welcome back. I've got the tree all potted up in the new pot, gotten all the soil packed into all the nooks and crannies. And now we're going to give it a really good thorough watering. I want to get all this new bonsai soil moist and saturated. Actually, I don't want it just moist, I want it all saturated. And get the root ball nice and wet here. Looks like a totally different tree almost. I'm really liking this tree. It's really turning out nicely. It's come a long ways from nursery pot to a bonsai pot. I'm really liking it. It's going to be a great tree. Alright, I think that's good for now. Put my sprayer away. Oh, alright, so that's a good long video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you guys watched to the end and I didn't bore you too much. So that's my Parsons juniper pruning and repotting. Getting it ready for the winter growing. Yeah, it's looking really good. I'm going to bend this a little bit. It's got a piece of wire on it. Just don't like how, there we go. Alright, so I told you that I was going to bend this down. Because my camera's about to die, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll bring you back in and show you. Okay everybody, so I got it all wired up, but I wanted to wire this branch down as well, so I put this down into this section here, and I wired this branch down, so now it's way down in this section, and it's almost interfering with this branch, but I kind of like how they interact together there, so I'm going to just keep that like that. I would kind of prefer it to be over just a little bit, but just getting it bent down for now is going to work just fine. So yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I appreciate y'all watching. Thanks for all your support. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you on the next one.